Problem 4, which is exercise 11.6 in your text, asks us to evaluate two regional divisions of the same company, and the company is Meiji Isetan Corporation of Japan. I don't know if they're real or fictional. I know that there is an Osaka and I know there's a Yokohama. I've been to both. Anyhow, they give us the information we need. They tell us the sales for Osaka are 300,000. The sales for Yokohama are 900,000. Keep that in mind right away, because Yokohama is 3 times as big as Osaka, and that can sometimes play silly games with evaluations and ratios. Net operating income 210 and 720, and average investments 1 million and 4 million. Our task says for each division, and to try to keep it plain, I'll do Osaka in red, and I'll do, let me find the color I know you can see, Yokohama in purple. So purple will be Yokohama and Osaka will be in red. Okay, for each division, compute the return on investment in terms of margin and turnover. Okay, so we'll do Osaka first. So Osaka has operating income of 210,000, and they have sales of 3 million. That gives them a return on investment 7%. They have a turnover of 3 million. That's the sales. Divided by the 1 million, which is the average operating assets. And that's 3. So their return on investment for Osaka Corporation is 21%. So the return for Osaka is 21%. And as you get into your finance classes, they'll talk more about why you break this down like that, because sales includes things like sales returns and allowances and things like that. How are they handled? Average operating assets, are they handled with depreciation, without depreciation, book value, historical cost? So there are lots of ways that this can get confused. I'm going to get you the very basic understanding, and I'll let your finance profs confuse you the rest of the way. So Yokohama division, $720,000 is their net operating income. And you see where I'm getting these numbers from. Sheet 1, okay, 720,000. And their sales are 9 million. So when you do that, you come up with 8% as their turnover. And then we look at the sales versus the average operating investment. So we'll take the sales of 9 million and we'll divide that by the 4 million, which is their average operating assets. And their turnover is 2.25. Okay. When you multiply those together, and I got my percentages mixed up. Okay. net operating income divided by sales. That gives you the return, okay? Sales divided by operating gives you turnover. Okay, so I kind of missed those up. When you multiply them, you still get the right answer. The total return on investment here is 18%. Okay, and just please learn from my error. Make sure that you label everything, that you know what we're talking about, when you know what margin is, when you know what turnover is. Make sure you get that and label it. Make sure you're comfortable with it. That's a big part of this. It's really easy to get things and to mix them up because you're just not looking at it real quick and you're not getting exactly what you need. So remember, margin is net income divided by sales. Turnover is sales divided by operating assets. Make sure you get them, label them, make sure you keep labeling them, because the last thing you want to do is get a problem wrong or get an exam question wrong because you just labeled backwards. So, this is their margin, this is their turnover, this is the return on investment. Now, it asks us to take that information and do some more things with it. It says, assume that the company evaluates performance using residual income, and that the minimum required rate of return for any division is 15%. It then asks us to compute and then compare the income with the minimum required return to see if we meet that benchmark. Well, the operating income for Osaka, the company in red, is 15% of $1,150,000. That's their minimum acceptable return. They did indeed exceed that. They earned $210 in operating income. These are real dollars. These are funds that have been earned. So they have residual income of $60,000. Now let's take a look at Yokohama. Yokohama also requires, that division also requires a 15% return. So 15% of average operating assets is $600,000. So they do meet that benchmark. That's their minimum acceptable return. The difference between those is $120,000. So they too have met their benchmark and they have residual income. Now the book asks you a leading question, and it's kind of like, it's a question for rookies. Is the Yokohama division run better? They're making twice as much residual income. Does that mean they're doing 2 times twice as good, better maybe? No. when you have two divisions or two entities of vastly different size, residual income is not a good way to compare them. It's a much better way to compare them using return on investment, because that's scaled down by sales and average operating assets. So all of those are percentages of the performance at that size, where residual income is a raw number. And whenever you have a much bigger competitor that you're comparing to a smaller competitor, the smaller competitor almost always will not fare well.